and welcome to Worst Quality Crab, a podcast of Asian American recipes and stories from best quality hearts. I'm your host, Freesia Lee. With me, of course, is producer and my husband, Sam.
Hello.
And joining us today is Nicole Cruz. Nicole is a life and leadership coach for first and second generation Asian immigrants and a longtime friend of mine from our previous lives in business school. Nicole, welcome. We are so glad to have you here today.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
I'm so excited to have you. This is going to be fun.
This is.
So let's just jump right in. We are here to talk about one of your childhood dishes that brings up, I was going to say warm and fuzzies, but maybe it's not warm and fuzzies. It brings up something.
Yeah. For me, when I think of like a comforting dish that my family would make, I think about the Filipino dish Arroz Caldo, which is basically, it's a rice porridge. So if you know congee, it's like a Filipino version of congee. And my parents would make it whenever I was sick. So it's kind of like, instead of chicken noodle soup, right? It's Arroz Caldo.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever I was sick, if it was like cold and rainy outside, it would be Arroz Caldo in a pot that they would make for me.
It's a little cold and rainy here. I think I want that right now.
Yeah, when I was prepping for this, I was getting legit hungry.
Oh, that happens all of the time. Yeah. Have you made it as an adult for yourself?
All the time. Yeah. So it's really simple. It's just like rice, chicken broth, chicken, ginger, onions. And if you want to get fancy with it, you like crisp up some garlic and you put it over the top with some like lemon and fish sauce. It's very good.
Oh, lemon.
Yeah.
That seems wildly different from like the Chinese porridge that I know. Like, I guess I wouldn't expect that in like a chicken noodle soup situation.
Yeah. Well, I think because in a lot of Filipino dishes, there's always an element of like acid or sourness and salt. So that's where like the lemon comes in. And then the salt is the patis. Well, we call it patis, which is fish sauce. And, you know, you can be as liberal amounts of it as you want, but you can kind of customize the flavor profile with like the amount of lemon and fish sauce and like garlic bits that you put in there. So it's nice way for everyone to make it kind of their own, but my mouth is watering thinking about this.
I mean, it sounds delicious to add all these different toppings that are completely out of the norm for me. I love that.
Yeah.
And I assume you're making it when you're not sick. You're not getting sick twice a month.
I'm not sick twice a month. But yeah, every time it's a little cold, like now I live in DC temporarily, so it's like always cold to me. So whenever it's cold outside or whenever I just want to feel comforted, it might also be like an emotional eating dish.
Yeah.
So my husband and I travel quite a bit. And so we were traveling full time. Like any country we went to, I could find the ingredients for this dish. Like we were in Scotland and I just was craving something that wasn't Scottish food or British food. And yeah, I could just go to the local shop and get everything I needed for the dish and create it myself anywhere in the world that we were.
Did you do that a lot while you were traveling? I know you've spent like 2 years traveling. Was it
2 years traveling? Yeah, we would do that. We would bring like Asian flavor packets anywhere we were. So we lived in Italy last year. And so I was like, okay, I know I'm going to have to like cook my own Asian food. And so I would just buy like sauce packets and bring them with me.
I would imagine that not only helps you feel a little bit more like you're at home, but also feels a little more connected to family when you've been away for so long.
Totally. It was a way to connect and not feel so homesick, like being able to have something that felt consistent. Because especially when you're like moving around a lot, new place, new people, new languages, I guess food was kind of like our anchor of like, okay, we can cook this one dish and it can be consistent every time.
You mentioned that your parents made this for you when you were a kid. And I just am very curious, both your parents? Or did someone primarily do the cooking?
You know, it's interesting because my dad would primarily do the cooking because my mom had like a typical 9 to 5. And she had to commute like over the Bay Bridge every day, so she would come home late. But this is a dish that both of my parents would make. Like either one of them could make. So I was raised to be hyper independent when I was a kid. Only child, eldest granddaughter of like a family of immigrants. And so I felt like I had to do a lot of things by myself. Like as soon as I could pack a lunch for myself, I would pack lunch for myself like, as a kid.
I didn't realize that your dad did most of the cooking. When your mom cooked this for you, did it sort of shift how you saw her or how you saw her role in the family?
I didn't really think twice about the fact that my dad would cook more than my mom. I didn't really understand like gendered roles or stereotypical gendered roles back then.
Awesome.
And so when my mom made it, I think it was nice to just be like cared for by her in that way, like a very motherly, maternal, because a lot of the memories I have of her was her like teaching me how to be really independent. And so like this would be an occasion where it's like, oh, like I just get to be sick and be a kid.
Yeah.
And she takes care of me.
Yeah.
So Arroz Caldo sounds like a nice warm hug that your parents would give you when you were sick.
Yeah.
I can't imagine you were sick that often when you were a kid. Do you find yourself making it more so now as an adult?
I was actually sick a lot when I was a kid.
Oh, really?
Okay.
So I don't know if I had this every time I was sick, but yeah, I would get sick a lot as a kid. Not so much now. So now I just make it whenever I'm wanting some comfort. I think part of it's also it's really easy. I could just like throw it together, and I can make a lot of it at one time. So I would say I eat it. Well, I don't know. I don't know if I would say I eat it more now than then because I was sick a lot. But I guess I'm surprised at how often I make it for myself and for Mark, my husband now.
How does Mark feel when you make it?
He likes it, but I don't think it. He's not nostalgic about it like
Right.
I am. So it's like, oh yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
But it's not like he doesn't ask for it.
Do you feel like when you make it, are you sort of offering him a hug and you're like, oh, you don't get my hug? Or I mean, I'm just curious, right? In the way that like sometimes we make foods with expectation or we have emotions attached to them and then we offer them to people and they don't. And so they're like, whatever.
I think that comes up mainly when he's sick. I'm like, oh, let me make you arroz caldo because you're sick and this will make you feel better. And then sometimes he's like, like, more like, yeah, it's going to make you feel better to make this for me. So go ahead and make it.
Oh, interesting. How do you feel about that?
I'm okay with it. I understand he doesn't have like the same memories that I do. I kind of wish he was more like, oh yeah, that'd be really nice. Like, thank you. But it's okay. It's also another reason for me to be able to eat it. So
win-win.
Win-win.
Yeah.
He'll eat whatever I cook. So
amazing. So you guys do not have children.
Correct.
But if you were to have children in the future, does this feel like something you would want to make for them?
Oh, for sure. Aw. A little memory, like a future memory. Like,
yeah.
A visual of that.
Oh.
Yeah. I would totally make this for them.
Similar. Is this like a thing that I know you have a lot of cousins? Is this like a dish through the extended family too?
No, it's not like and like I'm sure they all make it and they all eat it, but we've never talked about it. And it's not a dish that you would bring to like a family gathering. Like you want to bring like rice porridge to to like family parties. I remember eating it at my cousin's house and her mom made it.
Was it different when you had it at your cousin's house? Like, does it hit differently when someone else is making it for you?
I still remember it being comforting when I would eat it at other families' houses, but it just wasn't the same because their ratio was different than how my family made it. And yeah, it's definitely not a thing. Well, you can order it at like a Filipino restaurant, but it just feels like, oh, I can make this at home.
Why would I
Why
get it
don't
here?
Yeah, let me order like the deep fried pork leg that I would not make at home.
In my mind, I'm like, you should combine the two and put the deep fried pork leg on top of
Yes.
porridge.
I have seen it where they put like chicharron, like pork rinds on top. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mouth watering again.
So you talked about how there's like, basically a toppings bar and you can kind of make it however you want. I'd imagine as a kid when you were sick, it was pretty standard. But now that you're like a healthy adult and you get to make it whenever you want, have you branched out? Like, do you do chicharrones? Do you do?
Yeah. So I tried to be too healthy with it one time. And I was like, cauliflower rice instead of, I know, instead of
for you.
It was awful. It was terrible. It just tasted like cauliflower soup. So that went a little too far. I also tried brown rice. Did not have the glutinous texture it needed. Now I add spinach to it. So I'm like, oh, at least there's a vegetable in there instead of just like chicken and rice. So that makes me feel a little bit better about eating it a lot. But it's actually a pretty healthy dish on its own. I remember when I first made it for myself, I asked my mom for the recipe. And it was like a quarter cup of rice to 4 quarts of chicken broth. And I did not believe her. Like, I was like, that is so wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't believe you.
So I added like a cup of rice. And then it just became this like congealed mass. I was like, oh, okay. All right. So she was right. You just use a little bit.
When was the first time you tried to make it?
Ooh, I think in college. Yeah.
Were you sick?
No, I think I was just homesick. I think I just wanted and it's like cheap ingredients too. So I think the first time was in college and I was like, oh, I did something wrong. I did not listen. This does not look right.
Was your mom the one that taught you to do most of your cooking?
She provided a lot of recipes. She actually doesn't cook Filipino food all that often. She cooks like other cuisines. She's sent me recipes and she did most of the teaching of like, this is how to cut this particular vegetable, or this is, how long to cook this. But a lot of it, I feel like I taught myself. My mom will try new recipes and then I'll eat them like, oh, I like it. And then she'll send me the recipe.
How do you feel like that informs you as an adult cook?
I feel like I know a lot of basics and how like not to screw a dish up, but I don't have a lot of like the nuance of cooking or technique or whatnot.
Do you ever ask your dad about recipes?
I don't. No, the most recent is he sent me and my husband an air fryer. Then he sent me some air fryer recipes. And that was really nice because my dad and I don't have a great relationship. So actually like him sending us an air fryer and like some recipes was a really nice gesture. Like, hey, connection. Plus Filipino culture is very food oriented. So it makes sense that that is like the thing that we connect about.
Talk a little bit more about food and Filipino culture, because I have been to some of your family events. I know that food is a big thing. And also I know that a lot of people in your extended family have married outside of Filipinos. And so like how, I guess, in your larger family, does food still play a role? Has it sort of like diluted? What's that like for you in kind of like the larger family sense?
Yeah, Filipino culture is very food oriented. I feel like we plan our days around food. The first question when you walk in the door of any Filipino household is, have you eaten? Did you eat? Even if you say yes, they still bring food out and like, we'll eat this. And then you have to eat it, right? You can't turn it down. It's like, it's part of the bonding. It's kind of like, if you're not eating, then what are you doing? Like, what are we doing if we're not eating? My mom's side of the family have all married like Caucasian people. Like food is still central to all our family gatherings, and now it's a mixture of like American food. I'm not even sure what that is, but like American food and Filipino food, where there will be like a turkey for Thanksgiving and lumpia and pancit, which is like a noodle dish. So it's like a mixture now, but there's always Filipino food there. And what I don't like about the Filipino culture with as it relates to food is they like really want you to eat, but then they will always comment on your weight. So it's like eat, 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 but you're always like too skinny or too fat. But you must keep eating.
Yeah. I've heard that from some clients that I work with. And I will say that I don't feel like that is strict to just Filipino culture. I feel like it is a general Asian culture, I want to say. I've certainly heard a fair bit of that in my experience. How do you feel about that?
You know, I've made my peace with it. I get that part of it's also probably from like a colonized mindset of like you need to look a certain way, you need to be a certain way in order to fit in or be accepted. So I have learned to be able to set some boundaries and say like, hey, I don't want you to say anything about my body. But I know it's still very much a part of our culture. I was actually talking to a client the other day. She's a Filipino nurse coach, and she was saying something about normalizing emotional eating because in the Filipino culture, a lot of what we're taught encourages emotional eating of, are you sad? Eat. Are you happy? Eat. Like eating, like food is the medicine and the solution for any emotion.
Yeah. Oh, that's so interesting. We have talked before about food as a form of care and love. And I think this sort of touches on that, but this is really interesting about like food is an emotional expression. Right? Because I think like we're all kind of familiar with it's an emotional reaction, right? Like there's stressor, I'm going to eat to numb, or like, you know, I'm angry, I'm going to eat to numb or whatever. But I think what you just named is that in some ways it's an expression of emotion too, because it's can be for anything.
In a lot of our families, we weren't encouraged to express really strong emotion either way, like negative or positive. But food is there for us to like, okay, I'm going to treat myself and like be happy in this way and eat something delicious or sad. And I'm going to eat this thing that makes me feel a little bit better.
I think also to do that in the collective, right? Like if I can't say necessarily I'm super happy for you because that's difficult, or it's hard for me to say I'm proud of you, but I can bake you something, or I can make you a plate.
Yes.
Or if it's hard for me to say I'm sorry, but I can offer you something.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, I remember another client, she was grieving like the loss of a family member, and the wife of the person who passed, everyone just kept making her plates of food instead of being able to express like, I feel I have sympathy for you and I know this is a sad moment. Instead, like, just eat, just keep eating.
I think also like to go back to your point about sort of the colonizer mindset of things, when I think about new immigrants, particularly, I mean, my family's been here much longer, like 125 years or something. But for any immigrant, not most immigrants coming over, there's like limited resources. And so when you think about like resource sharing and also being able to care for someone or celebrate them, food is such an obvious thing.
Yeah.
To be able to share and say like, this is what I have to give, even when everything else is limited. And it just almost becomes like even more ingrained in how care is communicated.
Completely. It's the first thing, we go to express our love. And it's a way for us to feel also really generous too,
Mm-hmm.
um, because a lot of us do come from families that are still in poverty, or a lot of us first or second gens are like, we're just one generation removed from poverty. And so whereas money is not so abundant to share, it feels really generous to be like, hey, I made this for you,
Mm-hmm.
and like have that as an offering.
Mm-hmm. There's something really beautiful in that. And to your point about body critique along with food, um, and being a generation kind of removed from a lot of the necessities of survival, what of this do you actually want to keep as you move forward?
Mm. I actually really enjoy the food centric nature of my culture. It just brings so much joy and is a way for people to express themselves. So I would love to keep that. I would like to release, yeah, the body shaming part of it, the, I guess, the restriction around like what you can and can't eat or should or shouldn't. I would like to keep just the care that goes into creating a lot of these dishes. My grandma, my Lola, she has very specific dishes that she makes that everyone asks her to make. And whenever I try to ask for a recipe, she won't give it to me. Or it will just be like, put this, this, and this. There's like no measurements.
Mm-hmm.
It's like to taste.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think there's something like really special about just having something, like for my grandma, having something she's known for that people really enjoy, and like making those dishes really special
Mm-hmm.
for us.
Do you have any desire to like learn to cook more Filipino food?
For sure. Yeah. I just know some of like the most simple ones, the basic ones, but I I actually went to visit my Lola when she still lived in the US, and I videotaped her making one of my favorite dishes because I figured that would be easier for her than to like write down a recipe.
Yeah, how'd that go?
It was great. It was great, like just seeing her move around the kitchen and like grab things, and I just have to go back and actually like write everything down.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, she made this like oxtail peanut stew called kare kare. Um, one of my favorite Filipino dishes, and I want to be able to make it the way she made it.
For you or for future generations?
For both.
Perfect.
Yeah.
What stopped you from learning more Filipino food in the past?
I think I got intimidated by the ingredients or the process. Like some of them, you need a pressure cooker. This was before like instant pot,
Mm-hmm.
instant pot days. I'm just like, oh, that seems like a lot of work. I can just go to like the Goldilocks restaurant down the street
Mm-hmm.
and purchase something. So I think it was just like, oh, this is going to be too complicated. But in reality, now knowing like how complex some other dishes can be, like it's really simple.
That's interesting because we previously had a conversation about how like I have always felt really intimidated by Chinese food.
Mm.
And in part because yes, I could go and get it anywhere easily. And I just wonder, is there something that like there's a certain intimidation about your own cultural foods? I mean, probably for different reasons. And we're a sample size of 2. But I wonder what's there, right? Like if it's just this thing of like when you're a kid, someone else makes it for you, whether it's a restaurant or a family member, and maybe you're like not supposed to learn it in a similar way.
Oh, that's really interesting. I think for me, it's like if make it and it doesn't taste right, I kind of feel some shame.
Mm.
Like I've tried to make adobo, which is a relatively very simple Filipino dish. I cannot get it right. Like it just every time there's too much liquid or there's not enough, or like the ratio to like vinegar and soy sauce is off, and I just feel like I should know how to make this. And then, yeah, it's just like an invitation for shame. So, like, I'm just going to make Arroz Caldo because I know how to make that.
Mhm.
And that feels pretty solid.
That's super interesting. I had never really thought about that because I think also like, and I think you and I are similar in this of like, I will try to make other cuisines
Totally.
and I don't really mind if I fail because I don't know, right?
Yeah.
I got it from the Food Network. I found it online, whatever. Who knows how it turns out? And I have like no attachment to it. But you just named something really interesting around like the attachment that we have to what we should, quote unquote, should be able to do and our successes about that and what that means for, I'm going to say what that means for us at our place in the family to some extent.
Yeah. For me, it just feels like, oh, I am like a bad Filipino or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of Filipinos know how to make this and I just don't. Like I'm a little too American or something.
That's something really interesting too, right? Like when you think about the evolution of a dish, like maybe that's just like culinary Darwinianism, right? Like that's where it's going. I don't know. Just thinking about like when dishes get passed down, like they probably necessarily change a little bit every time, even if you think you're making it exactly the same. And so what if that's just the future of adobo in your family?
Oh, I hope not. No, the way I make it is terrible.
Okay.
It's like not good. But I get what you're saying, maybe with like other dishes. But at least my version that I've made so far is I do not want to pass that on. I do not want to make that.
Okay.
For my
so it's just not
future
good.
children.
Got it.
No, it's just not good. Yeah. And of course, because I have some shame around it, I don't want to attempt it. Like I don't want to practice it.
That's the hard part. Not practicing.
I think the hard part feels like the practicing for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know if I practice, like I would get it, but I just don't want to. I don't want to attempt it and open myself up for, you screwed it up again.
Would you ask your mom?
Well, I've asked her for the recipe, but I haven't asked her to teach me how to like actually like make it with her.
Yeah. That for me just brings up this idea of like, even within food, there are still things that like we can and can't talk about with our families. Insofar as like maintaining roles and like wanting to both please our family members, but also like you might want to make a change, right? Like you might want to change the dish and she might have feelings about that. And then like, how do you navigate what you do want to do with it to make it yours and to make it like good in your own way?
Like if I were to change my Lola's pancit recipe, I could see that being like, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. Why mess with a good thing?
Mm-hmm.
I think going back to the Arroz Caldo, do you make it exactly like how your mom made it when you were a kid, or have you changed? I know you said like you tried different ratios and you tried making it healthier. Do you have like an established way that you make it now, or do you still kind of experiment with it a little bit?
It's still the basic recipe, but you know, usually they leave these like huge chunks of ginger in there that you basically just have to like pull out of your mouth like when you eat it. And so I've changed like I mince it so that you can just eat it. So I've changed like little things here and there, but the main components of it are still the same. I just make it so that I can eat it faster, or like it's more convenient for me to eat it. I probably still have the rice to broth ratio off. I still like am insistent to add more rice. And I think it's just because I don't have the patience to really let it stew and simmer for as long as it needs to for all of the rice to break down. So that's probably still off, but mainly it's the same.
But do you enjoy it your way as much?
Oh yeah.
Maybe more?
Maybe more. I don't know. I kind of want to ask my mom to make it again. Like I haven't had her Arroz Caldo since I was a kid. Yeah. But yeah, I think my version's delicious.
Of course. I mean, it sounds great. But I think that's my point, right? Like, we make these small changes over time because of convenience, new technology, availability of ingredients, and then they just become our own that then get passed down and that then new people get to make new memories about.
Yeah.
But in the moment, right, if you were to be like, Mom, I do things differently. Not your mom, some other mom.
Some other mom.
Your mom's cool. I know her. But it's the thing of like, am I honoring the recipe in the same way? How does my family feel about that? If you were to serve it to your Lola, like, she would have some feelings. Do you want to deal with those feelings?
And she does not hide her opinions, which I love. I think if I had changed like a fundamental piece of it, like, this is brown rice Arroz Caldo, I think they'd be like, okay, all right, this is a little much. Yeah.
Like, living in California too long.
Yeah. And I put kale in it. I don't know. But
I legit thought you were going to say I added kale as a topping choice.
No, I'll do spinach. Kale's a little much. Kale's a little too far.
Yeah. It's hilarious that you mentioned cutting up the ginger, because I remember when I was a kid and like when my mom would make dinner and like do a stir fry or something like that, there'd be like whole cloves of garlic and like big chunks of ginger in there, and like sometimes it just looks like a potato or a piece of chicken or something. And when you're a kid, you just like take a big bite and it's like, ginger bomb or garlic bomb. And like I do like try to, when I'm cooking for my kids, like try to cut it up or like take it out before I give it to them so they're not traumatized by a ginger bomb.
Totally. Like, I've legit thought of like, oh, maybe I cut up the ginger and I put it in a cheesecloth, and then I put that in like the soup. So then you just take that out and you don't have to like deal with it. I don't know, fancying it up that way, I guess. But
I mean, that's like a legit thing in French cooking, right? To do like a herb sachet and then you put it in, you take it out.
Shit, herb sachet.
I think I'm pretty sure I like, saw that on like a PBS cooking show or whatever. Jacques Pepin.
Oh,
but
classic.
like that's, I think, also interesting about like, as we learn new things, as we are a generation or two or three or four removed from the immigrant story or from poverty or whatever, and we get to like learn these new things, we do actually get to make these dishes better.
Yeah.
And more convenient and like more conducive to eating and making them faster and more enjoyable. And I guess sometimes I wonder, like, at what point are we just being like snobby assholes because we've learned more shit and are like, more worldly, I guess, or like have more global exposure versus the traditional.
Yeah. And even I have a tension of that in my own thinking of Filipino food, because I've gone to some like fancy Filipino restaurants where I'm just like, no, like, that was all wrong. Tastes great, but where it's like a single like beef shank bone with the ribeye beef wrapped around and like sauce drizzled on top, I'm like, no. this is too far. And so yeah, even I have like my own limitations of like what counts as acceptable Filipino food versus like too modern.
Yeah. Well, that's really interesting too. I think I feel similarly, and I sort of wonder sometimes, like, is this a thing that we feel about certain Asian cuisines because they have historically been inexpensive, in large quantity, like meant to feed masses almost, and we're so conditioned to that when it's challenged, we're like, oh, this isn't real anymore.
Yeah, like I think legit that's the thought in my mind of like, I shouldn't have to pay $30 for this dish. There's also like those budgetary limits of like, this should be $10. Even when I say that, it feels weird because I'm like, no, I should want to pay a lot, well, to support like Filipino cuisine, but it just feels wrong.
yes to everything that we both just said, but the flip is like, why shouldn't our cuisines be really expensive and be really fancy and be super elevated? And like, why can they not also be, you know, a single teardrop of a thing on a plate that's a $95 whatever? Which,
like the most exquisite fish sauce or something.
Right. Totally.
Gelée.
Yes.
There's like a fancy Asian restaurant near us that has like $18 congee or rice porridge. And whenever we'd go there and see the menu, that would be like $18. Why would I pay $18 for congee? But then some person would inevitably like order it, not necessarily in our party, like maybe the table over.
Never our party.
And then, you know, I'd look over and be like, that does look pretty good, actually. They really went all out on that congee. Maybe it is worth $18. So I think it's just funny whenever we see like the more common things on Asian restaurants menus, and like we kind of avoid it, but like I think I want to do an experiment where we just order all the common things and like see how it holds up, you know.
I love that. And she's like, okay, all right, $18 congee. Let's see.
Could we do like a side-by-side challenge with the $6 one that we get down the street? I mean, but like, I think you kind of name an interesting point, Sam, right, too, because there are more and more restaurants, especially here, more Chinese restaurants, more so than anything, I think, that they are becoming like fancier, and they're getting like Michelin star or their James Beard, like they're getting a lot of recognition. And I am of two minds of like really wanting to try it and also being like, but why? But why? Like there is one in our neighborhood and everyone has said it's very good and it's like a limited menu. Like there's not a lot, but you could like try all the things and it's excellent. And like, you know, it's pretty basic. Like they have sweet and sour chicken and some fried rice and whatever. And I can go literally 3 doors down at like a hot steam table setup and get the same thing for a fraction of the price. And I know that it's delicious. And I know that it's, you know, the ingredients, the chickens are not the same. And so there's that. But it's like the juxtaposition is staring me in the face on the same block. And I also wonder, like, you know, to your point of like going to Goldilocks to get Filipino food and also like going to really fancy Filipino food, like as Filipino food becomes a little more mainstream, like how do you see that going? Or like how do you feel, this is sweeping generalizations, right? But like how do you feel like that's going to play out culturally?
I think it's a great thing that there's more Filipino restaurants and more people are trying Filipino food. I think I just worry that the Filipino food is going to, like, people are going to start tailoring it to American tastes instead of keeping it as is. And if you like it, great. And if you don't like it, then you don't like it. But there's definitely some restaurants, and even in DC, I went to a Filipino restaurant I was super excited about. And like everything had ube in it, like just like ube everything, and like purple waffles and like all of that. And I'm like, I get it. Like it's the thing people are into, they would buy, but it doesn't even taste like ube. It's just a thing that people are now familiar with enough that they will order it. I would love for people to know more about Filipino food and try different dishes. I'm hoping it doesn't turn into, well, we need to water this down in order to fit like American palates. Like if it calls for shrimp paste, you put shrimp paste in it, like instead of, I don't know, some other umami substitute.
Right. This has been super fun. I think we could talk about food and Filipino dishes and Arroz Caldo all day, but we won't. Instead, maybe we'll go make some. Nicole, thank you so much for sharing your dish with us, sharing your memories, letting us get to know your family a little bit more. If people want to find you on the internet, where can they find you and your work?
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was fun. I'm definitely going to make this dish later this week. Um, so if you want to learn more about my work, you can visit my website, NicoleCruzCoaching.com, or find me on Instagram at Nicole Cruz Coaching.
Thank you again, Nicole, for being here. This has been such a pleasure. And thank you to our listeners. If you would like to try your hand at Arroz Caldo, whether you're feeling under the weather or you just want something cozy, you can find a link to the recipe in the show notes or find us at worstqualitycrab.com or on Instagram at worstqualitycrab. Thanks so much. Until next time.